Mr. Myles Kennedy. Welcome to Linear Rock.
Well, thank you very much. Grazie. Good to see you.
Such a pleasure, actually, to have you. You know, you're a sight for sore eyes and for sore ears, let's say. One of the most wanted frontmen in rock and one of the last great ones. Great career with Alter Bridge and SLASH and the Conspirators featuring Myles Kennedy. Also active as a solo artist. And we are here tonight to present the Ides of March, your second solo effort, which is out today, May 14th, 2021, on Napalm Records, a deep record indeed, with a message, of hope and a message of survival instinct, let's say, which is establishing your strong identity, which is even stronger with this record. Did you plan actually this second album, or it actually, came along naturally, as it seems, listening to it? And has the pandemic some way given you an even stronger urgency to express emotions through your music?
Wow. Yeah. First of all, that was a very kind introduction. I'm blown away with that. Yeah, so I knew I wanted to make a second solo record, and I was in the middle of touring with Alter Bridge. We put a record out, and we were about 6 months in, and I knew I had a solo record coming. And I remember talking to my manager in February and saying, "Man, I know I'm supposed to go in the third quarter and make this album. I don't know how I'm going to write it," because we were supposed to go all over the world. And then about 2 weeks later, the entire world shuts down, and I had all the time I needed to write a record. So yeah, it was interesting, because oftentimes as a writer, the fun part for me is writing the music, like writing the riffs and the melodies. I love all that. The hard part oftentimes is the content for the lyrics, especially when you write a lot of records. It's like, how do you stop from being redundant from record to record and find different themes?
Yeah.
And well, given the circumstances, there was no shortage of inspiration, just reflecting on what was happening around me, and just looking at the world and viewing it through that prism, and kind of the uncertainty and all the emotions that manifested during that period. So yeah, it's a very inspired record in that sense. I didn't have to search far for things that were really genuine emotions, and so in a lot of ways, making the record helped me work through those emotions.
You are a very experienced, composer and singer as well, but being able to rest and reflect on things during these times, do you think it made you a much wiser author, maybe than you expected? And the not taking things for granted hit you hard some way during these last months?
Certainly. Yeah, there's a song on the record called Moonshot, which dives into that idea of how I personally took our lives for granted. The line is, "I remember when we were suiting up again before the end of time." And it's the idea that I was standing in front of the wardrobe case, putting on my clothes, getting ready to go on stage, thinking, this is wonderful. I get to do this, and didn't really, just thought this would be indefinite. And then you realize that things can happen, and it really put a lot in perspective for me. And this entire dynamic has made me, I think I've grown from it. I think it's forced me to mature a little bit, which isn't saying much, because though I'm a little older, I operate like a 15-year-old boy. I mean, I'll be straight up. I'm a man child. But it helped me evolve to about 16 years old. So.
Okay. And is the Ides of March in contrast, with the first solo album, which was not actually the first, but it was the first released? I'm talking about Year of the Tiger. Or do you see it, as the perfect continuation of your own solo path? And, is Michael Elvis Basquiat like a glue, a sort of balance for you also in this process, of knowing the direction to choose each time?
Yeah, it's, first, Michael Basquiat is definitely, he's such a good friend, and we text all the time. I was just texting with him last night, and he's like a brother. So my opinion there, as far as why I continue to want to use him, is it's just comfort. And he's he's incredibly talented. Everybody I know who makes a record with him are always like, wow, that's one of the hardest working guys. He's got it all. I mean, he's amazing. And then as far as, the solo thing, as far as this record compared to Year of the Tiger, to me, it's a continuation. It was a necessary departure from as acoustic based as the first record was. I really wanted to play more electric guitar, and I could even see future solo records still continuing with that, because I just miss playing leads, and I love all that stuff. So, but at the same time, you can still hear the acoustic in the, it's still there, and a lot of the songs were written on an acoustic. It's just that once you add an electric guitar when you're making a record, it eats up all the space. It's just like such a loud presence. It's just like you're strumming along, you got your nice acoustic, and then all of a sudden, and now I'm going to put a guitar and electric in, and it's just like, I'm taking over the whole mix.
Okay, and the cover artwork that you chose is very melancholic. Is it done on purpose? Do you think it fits perfectly the content? And where did you shoot actually the cover photo?
Yeah, it's great to have people ask that question, because it's here in my hometown. Say it was back in December. It was a foggy day, and we had no intention of using it for the record cover. We got up, and it was one of the first photos that we took. We found this spot and like, this might be cool. Snapped some pictures, and then we got all the photos back from the shoot that day. We're like, wow, that's a pretty heavy shot. So it became the album cover, and it also, I think it does have kind of a melancholy, dark aspect, which fits a lot of, especially when these songs are written. It's interesting that there's as much fog in the background. I've never thought about this before, but there's a lot of fog, which is uncertain. There's uncertainty with fog, because you don't know what's behind it oftentimes, and that's what a lot of these lyrics are about.
Cool, very cool. Where do you live, actually? Where do you live at now?
I live in Spokane, Washington. And I've lived here, for a long time, since the late 70s, to age myself here. But yeah, I've been here. This has been home.
Wow, long time. Okay, and about the song Get Along, it goes back, the inspiration I read, it goes back to 1992, but it also resonates as a very current matter, let's say. It's, an anthem of these times as well. Can you tell us more about the evolution of its inspiration, and why now it was the perfect time to, release it and get it out?
Sure. Yeah, it was one of the early songs when I was writing, and I had that I had that hanging around for a while, and I liked it. I thought it could be a foundation of a song, so I started coming up with the chord progression. And oftentimes when I'm writing and I come up with the chords, a lot of times the melody will make itself known, and a phrase will just happen. And so I'm like, why can't we all just get along? And I'm like, okay. Where have I heard that before? Where'd that come from? And I remembered when I was younger, the riots in Los Angeles and how the effect that had on me. And that was something that Rodney King said. He had a press conference, and I think he said, why can't we all just get along? And I thought that was very appropriate, just given kind of how polarized people are right now with everything. And keep in mind, this was before the summer when things got really heated, especially in America. We had all sorts of protests and whatnot. So it ended up being kind of prophetic in that sense. But to me, the song is the idea of just wanting people to unite and a certain amount of tolerance and just listen to one another. And that's something that's really important to me.
Do you elaborate songs any differently when you're the only one in charge, let's say? I mean, the actual process, the approach, and the mindset as well.
Yeah, it's the lonely world of being a solo artist. You know, you don't have people to collaborate with and bounce ideas off of. And with Alter Bridge and with Slash and the Conspirators, that's something that can speed up the process, because if you have an idea that you're not really sure about, you're like, hey, what do you think of this idea, Mark? Oh yeah, it's cool. Or nah, I don't think so. So then you just move on to the next thing. When I'm all by myself, especially as I was demoing these tracks during the pandemic, you know, I'm basically sitting in a room with my guitars and basses, and I'm programming the drum parts, and I'm trying to envision the whole thing to send to everyone. And oftentimes you'd spend, you know, a whole day working out a whole section, and then you come back the next day and go, well, that was a waste of time. You know, if I just had players in here and we were able to kind of flesh it out in an hour and realize, no, that doesn't work, it would have been so much faster. But I don't have much of a life outside of music, so I have plenty of time to devote to writing songs.
And on the record, did you, of course, you played guitar and sing, but did you play any other instrument also on the, you know, actual recording?
I did. I played, like on the first solo record, I played the lap steel, played the mandolin, all the guitars. What else did I play on this record? I think that was about it. And then we had Zia playing the drums, Zia Udine, who's amazing, and then Tim Tournier played the bass, and you know, it was the trio again.
Cool. What did you learn, you know, from about also now this thing of composing? Let's say, what did you learn from Mark Tremonti and Watt from Slash, which both actually had a huge past when you joined them? I mean, you know, as songwriting partners and also band partners. And what do you think they get from you, Myles, as, you know, an adding value?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I think one of the things I picked up from Mark is when I was writing throughout the 90s, I was the guy who I would generally sit down and try and complete a whole song. And that was kind of how it worked. With Mark, he's very into like sections. So he's like, oh, I've got this chorus idea, or I have a verse idea. So what we do is, like, he'll say, hey, here's a riff. Do you have a verse or a chorus that'll go with this? And I'll go through and so that's how we do it now. It's like this weird sonic puzzle. And I've talked with other people about how we do it, and they're like, really? To them, it's just the weirdest thing they've ever heard of. I was talking with someone who's like a really good writer producer, and he just was scratching his head. He's like, how do you do that? I'm like, you know what? We've been doing it that way for 16 years, 17 years. It's just kind of how it works. And with Slash, what, you know, I think for more than songwriting, what I learned from him was how incredibly prepared he likes to be when it comes to whether it's making a record or performing. He loves to rehearse over and over. And I mean, we'll get in a room and just go and play things over and over. And it's just that repetition. And that's why he's so good. And as far as what they might have learned from me, boy, I have no idea. You know, I know that as a guitar player, sometimes we'll exchange ideas like once in a great while. Yeah, I remember this was a while ago. It was during sound check, and I was playing some little thing on the guitar, waiting for Slash to show up. Or no, he was already there. That's right. And I was playing on stage, and he walked up and goes, "Hey man, what's that? That's pretty cool." And so I showed him. It was something I made up a long time ago, like a line you'd use in a solo. But the thing about Slash is, keep in mind, this is a line I'd worked on for years, and it was pretty difficult to play. And so I showed it to him. He said, "Oh, cool, that's groovy, man." So later that night, we're playing the gig, and I think it was on one of his long, because he plays those long improvised solos, which are great, because he rarely repeats himself. It's always just kind of it's like listening to a jazz musician, which I love. And all of a sudden, I look over, I'm like, he just played that lick I showed him. And I mean, like, this was like 4 hours ago, and he just used it. That's amazing. Like, so yeah, I mean, he's just a very, look, obviously, he's extremely good.
Yeah, he is. So it must be flattering, yes. Now, let's go forward in time. And just imagine you had to tell your nephews about those few days you've been a member of Led Zeppelin, one of the greatest bands of all times. How would you tell the old story to them?
Well, it's hard to believe it actually happened. Now, was I actually in Led Zeppelin? No, I mean, they were jamming. It was like two of the guys who'd been in Led Zeppelin and Jason Bonham, who obviously was in Led Zeppelin when they did the reunion. But I think they were looking at it like it was without Robert Plant. There's no Led Zeppelin, and I totally agree with that. So it was going to be a project of some sort. I don't know if they knew what, but they just wanted to play. I look at it kind of like it was an opportunity to get in a room with three guys who just wanted to hang, play some music. And it just so happened that they were the guys who basically wrote the blueprint for everything I do. It's just like, it's kind of insane. It would be like it would be like an architect getting a phone call from getting in a time machine. And it's, hey, it's Frank Lloyd Wright here, and I'm interested, would you just want to come over and we'll just design a house together? It's like, it's kind of the same sort of thing. And that's my architecture, I'm a geek that way. But so I looked at it as just this wonderful opportunity to be in a room with the guys who ultimately showed me everything that I know. And what the best part was? Playing music was wonderful, but I got to tell them what they meant. It was just the idea as a fan. I could say, hey, I lasted all of 30 minutes when I met him, and I finally I couldn't keep it in anymore. I just said, look, I just got to tell you guys, I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow or not, but thank you. And thank you for writing the blueprint for all that we do. And they just kind of looked at me and they're like, yeah, that's cool. They were nice about it, but you could tell they probably hear it every single day. But they were very gracious. It was awesome.
So you lived it in the moment. I mean, you weren't actually thinking about what it could evolve in. Did you live it like that? It was like the magic of the moment. Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I tried to just stay present. I didn't. To be perfectly honest with you, to this day, I was honored to be brought in, but I'm kind of scratching my head going, well, why me? I mean, there's the 7 billion people on this planet. How did I win this lottery ticket?
Wow. Do you remember what did you play with them?
Yeah, we played like the first day, the moment that's like, as far as the songs from their catalog, I think the two moments that stand out the most was playing No Quarter. That's one of my favorites. And then later on, when I came back later that year, we did the Rain song, and that was, that was like that was something I'll never forget. It was goosebumps and got a little teary. I kind of had to turn at one point. I had to turn around and like, don't let the guys see that I'm getting emotional. But it was pretty heavy.
Yeah. You are a very talented guy and lucky as well.
Very lucky.
And about Rockstar, that experience, that movie experience, was it a fun experience for you? Like an out-call experience? Or did you think, back then that maybe also the movies could be a career for you?
Oh, I definitely didn't think movies were going to be. In fact, I read for the part. And the director and the what do they call the person the casting person? And they asked me after I did it, after I read it, they're like, would you be interested in maybe doing more films? And it's like, I don't know, I'd have to think about that, because all I knew at that point was that people seem to get up very early in the morning to start these shoots. I don't know if I'm cut out for that. But yeah, that was something. It was kind of the same sort of thing. There have been a lot of moments in my career where I'm the guy thrown into something, and I'm kind of looking around going, how did this happen? I'm suddenly standing here in this big budget film, and there's Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston, and hey, there's Zakk Wylde and Jason Bonham and Jeff Pilson. I'm like, how did this happen? There's just been a series of kind of strange events, and part of it's because of where I live. So I live in Spokane, Washington. We're not a massive city. We're kind of it's kind of rural, and it's kind of is what it is. So you're not in the thick of it. So when you're suddenly plucked out of that and you're put in these realms where it's like, how did I get here? It's crazy. And so what you do when you're in that situation. And that's why people are like, oh, I really liked your acting in that movie. I'm like, I wasn't really acting. All the kind of elation and the excitement you're seeing, like, oh man, I'm Thor, God of Thunder, and that was just me being me, genuinely excited to be there.
And will the new record, the Ides of March, will be available also on vinyl?
It's available now.
It is. Okay, already.
Yes.
Fantastic. It's just black one, or you have different kind of editions?
We have a few cool that I didn't even know we had. I saw them. People started posting them last night. Like cool, like marbled green and white and clear. And I think you can go to MylesKennedy.com and check those out. I'm sure Napalm's got some as well. So it's available. So I don't have my copy yet. So my wife just a few minutes ago, she was like, we don't have any copies of the vinyl. I want to spin the vinyl.
If you have to pick one, which one would you choose for your collection? Which color? And if we have to pick one song, which is your favorite one right now, which would be?
I would want to spin the marbled one, the kind of green and white. I would play Ides of March. That's my favorite track.
Oh wow, the long one. Okay.
The long one.
And which are your top 3 frontmen of all times? Did they change through the years, or actually your staples are pretty much always the same, fixed, eternal ones?
Right. Well, for rock frontmen, I would say obviously Freddie Mercury. That's the guy. There's so many good ones. I'm a big David Bowie fan. Mm-hmm. Even on the Ides of March, we'll just be on the blue horizon, and that's me. That's the Bowie. That's the Bowie influence. That's me trying to do Bowie. Who would be number 3? I really love Iggy Pop. He's just so rock and roll. Yeah, because he just gets up there and to me, it's more punk rock, but I see kind of just how he just doesn't. I don't know. And I feel like without Iggy Pop, there wouldn't be a lot of frontmen owe a lot to that guy, because he was the originator of a lot of cool stuff.
For Year of the Tiger, your father was actually the spark behind the inspiration. If you have to choose one person or one thing which you think is behind the inspiration for this second album, what would you pick? I probably would just say the state of the world. I would just say kind of just the times we're living in was what informed the narrative. Yeah. Did you listen to music a lot during the lockdown? Did you discover something new you liked in particular?
Oh, yes, I did. I actually, there's so much I'm trying to find. There's one, well, I did. So those who know me know I love R&B, and I listen to a lot of jazz. We listen to a lot of Steely Dan around here, and a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire. That just makes me feel good. But there's actually, who I've been listening to lately that I really love, and they're putting a new record out, is Blackberry Smoke. I don't know if y'all. Okay,
yes, of course, a great band, amazing band. They mix a lot of genres, and they do it very good. Right.
And Charlie is just an amazing singer and guitar player, and they're really nice guys. We got to do some shows with them down in South America with SLASH The Conspirators, and it was one of those things where I'd stand on the side of the stage and watch him, and I think after a while I got to the point where there's that weird guy again, I sometimes I do that. I kind of fanboy out with bands that we tour with when I really like something, and I'll just kind of gravitate towards it. And so that's one band. There's another band that I really like. They're a young band from the California area called Dirty Honey. And they're
of course. Yeah, great band.
Killer. Yeah.
Very promising. Yeah, they are. And by the way, Blackberry Smoke is like, seeing them live, it's like traveling back in time. They're so organic, and, every show is different and amazing. Yeah. Good. Last questions. What do you miss the most, and what you don't miss at all of the life on the road?
Okay, that's easy. I can tell you what I miss the most is obviously the fans. We have fans that are so devoted, and there are fans I know I will see at a city who've been coming for over a decade. Then there are some fans that will just travel to every single city we're at and travel all over the world with us. They're like deadheads. So I miss seeing that. What I don't miss at all are backstage bathrooms.
Okay, that's weird. Everybody says, different things all the time. So it's very interesting. And about your next plans, what's in the can at the moment? Will you be back on stage soon? How do you envision it?
Yeah, I've got 4 shows coming up at the end of June. I'm excited. We got a lot of rehearsing to do. So yeah, I mean, they just announced, I just found out yesterday, they've announced that apparently you don't, I guess outside at certain things, you don't have to wear masks anymore. And so I don't know if that means that we're really moving, I guess that's good. So hopefully, at least in the States, we'll be doing more shows. And that's a good thing, because that means we'll be good and rehearsed for when we can cross the pond and get back to Europe. So hopefully sooner than later.
Good. And now we're going to close the interview with the In Stride video. Do you want to introduce it for us and tell us something about this song in particular?
Yeah, this song was a song that I didn't even know was going to make the record. I wrote it towards the end and thought, well, it'd just be cool to have like kind of an up-tempo track, little slide guitar, and it ended up being the first single. But it was inspired by thinking about when all of this started and how we were all stocking up on supplies and toilet paper and kind of preparing for the end of the world. So I thought it would be interesting to write a song almost as if you were preparing for like a zombie apocalypse and the anxiety and all of that came with it. But the chorus is kind of, it's a broad stroke of kind of like, cool down, baby, you're going to burn out in time. And the idea of like, keep calm, carry on, don't get so anxious, and try and put everything into perspective. Everything's going to be all right.
Thanks, Myles, for your time, for this great interview. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and hope to see you back soon, on stage, also here in Europe.
Right on. This has been so much fun. Grazie.
Thank you very, very much. Have a nice day, Myles.
All right, you too. Take care.
We love you.
I love you. All right, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.